My name is not important, nor is my birth date or address. What is important to know is that I was once an ordinary being, just like you. The daily exposure to the horror and indecencies performed by society and the human race as a whole can change a man. It changed me. The intrusive rise of world war, poverty, murder, crime, and economic devastation have all somehow twisted the human condition beyond recognition, beyond repair. Now, I call this place home, safe within the confinement of these four walls, to share with you another twisted tale of an otherwise ordinary mind. Kelly Reese's body was shaking with anticipation at the thought of the rectangular box wrapped with the sports section of the local newspaper being the new video game that he had wanted. That would mean a new video game system was still hidden somewhere within the house. The jubilant birthday boy had also secretly wished for a brand new mountain bike to replace the one in the garage with the busted chain. Even that pair of Air Jordans that every kid in his grade school was wearing would be an added bonus. Unfortunately for the preteen, this year would prove to be no different than all of the rest. He hadn't received any sort of real presents since his mom left the two of them nearly 3 years ago. Kelly was disappointed to find that underneath the MLB standings and a story about another professional athlete on the juice was just a used copy of a DVD titled Zombie Hospital that his father had stolen from his previous employer. Brian Reese was a 30-something-year-old single father who had recently been fired from the neighborhood video store for theft, inattentiveness to the customers, and always under the influence of something herbal or liquid. This was only a reflection to the way he treated his son Kelly. He loved his son unconditionally, but found it difficult to express. He loaded the disc into the out-of-date disc player, pulled the tab on another can of Coors Light, and hit the play button on the remote control. "Happy birthday, Kelly," he said as he pulled his son in closer. "Daddy, what's a zombie?" asked an inquisitive Kelly Reese. The young boy nestled himself underneath his father's sweaty armpit, wrapped up in his raggedy old comforter, and watched as the living dead continued to visually invade his head. Kelly would hide his chubby face with every scene that presented someone becoming prey to the persistent brain-eaters. He could feel the chocolate birthday cake in his belly churning like some demonic concoction. Kelly was afraid that the volatile matter would find its way up through his esophagus and spew all over the living room carpet. He took a chug from his glass of Mountain Dew and repositioned himself to fall asleep in his father's lap. Kelly's dreams were haunted by creatures with half a cranium and their innards hanging outwards, searching for a buffet of brains. He saw his mother. She was sitting in the bleachers of the stadium watching him play baseball with his team, the Amazing Bases. Kelly was at bat with a 2-3 count when the spectators started to scream and cry out in fear. They were under attack from the opposing team's members. There were 9 teenage zombies ripping through their victim's skin like it was tissue paper. He could see that their white and blue uniforms were now splattered with blood. The growing young men's bodies were nothing more than decaying carcasses of rotting flesh. Jimmy Daniels, the second baseman with the blonde hair and the perfect smile, was heading towards Mrs. Reese. He looked back at Kelly and spoke, "Brains." The boy's perfect smile was gone, along with his entire lower jaw. His glistening blonde hair was infested with human flesh and tiny white maggots, crawling over his exposed and mangled scalp. Kelly started to run around the diamond-shaped field, base by base, in order to rescue his mother from the impending doom. The more ground that he covered, the farther away she would get. The stadium had become dark, and the clouds overhead were trembling from the deafening claps of thunder. He tried to scream over the noise, "You get away from her, you monster!" It was too late. The last flash of lightning was just bright enough for him to see Jimmy Daniels punching his baseball glove through the back of her head, then feasting on its contents. Another major shift of the dark clouds caused a downpour of baseball-sized hail and had Kelly on his knees crying at second base. He was awoken by a rumbling sound echoing from the sky. Kelly raised his head and was relieved to find that the noise was only the obnoxious snoring from his inebriated father. The room was lit a pale blue from the blank screen of the television set. He sat up and rubbed the sweat from his face, picked up the lid with the bright orange sticker that read "Marked for Quick Sale," covered the stale cake, and headed to his bedroom. As he was climbing the stairs, the pale blue light suddenly vanished and the room went dark. Kelly started to perspire again. "Don't forget tomorrow we are going to Maple Creek with your grandma," his father slurred. He rolled over on the dilapidated futon and the remote dropped to the floor. Maple Creek Manor was on the other side of town. Kelly would usually take a nap during the long drive so that his father could have some quality time to visit with his grandma Elaine. It was a weekend ritual for the three of them. Maple Creek Manor was the place where they went to see Elaine's husband, Arthur, who had become a resident over 2 years ago when his Alzheimer's disease became too much of a burden for her. Elaine would always start to cry when they would pass the old cemetery that ran parallel to the long and winding driveways leading to the wrought iron gates surrounding the manor. Kelly wasn't sure if his grandmother was afraid of what lay beneath the cemetery's cold and damp ground, or just was upset about seeing Pappy. The graveyard reminded him of the horrible monsters and the brutal killings of his mother from his dreams the night before. "Don't worry, Grandma. There are no zombie monsters here," Kelly smiled. She gave her grandson an awkward look before giving that same look towards her son. Brian Reese's upper lip formed into a smirk while keeping his eye on the road as the rusty gates to the manor were opened. Inside of the facility were many things that had become familiar, like a second home to Kelly. The most recognizable thing was the swinging glass doors covered with children's drawings and artwork that read Play Care. This was the last stop of the weekend journeys for Kelly. His father would leave him here while Grandma had her visit. It seemed like forever until Kelly would see her again. She told him that Pappy wasn't allowed to have children visit him until he was feeling better. Would he ever feel better? The young boy would scream and throw a tantrum until his face would turn a crimson red, but his father would not allow his son past the 2 metal doors that guarded the Alzheimer's ward. "Come on, Kelly, let's get you some lemonade," said Rachel, the nurse's aide that held his boyish crush. "I think we are about to start a new game of hide-and-go-seek." She reached out and took the hand he wasn't using to wave goodbye to his dad. The last sound he would always hear was the powerful buzzing sound that allowed his relatives access to what lay behind the metal doors. The damn buzzing noise sounded like a swarm of bees, a swarm that was about to be fumigated, for it was today that Kelly Reese was planning to step up his predictable life and escape from Play Care. He was determined to see his Pappy. It seemed like forever had passed since Grandma Elaine told him how the illness took Pappy's brain, like the zombies. Is that what was being held captive behind the doors with no windows? Maybe the powerful buzzing noise was a way to put the zombies to sleep. There was only one way to be sure. Kelly was planning his great escape from his secret hiding place behind the leather chair next to the Play Care entrance door. "Ollie, ollie, oxen free," shouted Rachel. Kelly crawled out the door. The young adventurer, determined to find his sick grandfather, was all alone in Maple Creek Manor. It was only a matter of time before the buzz was back. Kelly quickly turned his head and swished his floppy blonde curls to one side. His emerald green eyes widened as if Santa Claus had just landed his reindeer in the middle of Maple Creek Manor. The vault-like doors began to open outward as a woman in a yellow sundress and sandals, her 2 children, and a burly man smashing out his cigar into a tin cylinder on the wall, waited patiently. "Let's make this quick, Margaret. The game starts at 3, and I have to pick up a case of beer on the way home," the fat man stated before belching up what smelled like a quick lunch from Taco Bell. "Oh, that was a good one, Dad," his son cheered with a high five to the hand. Kelly, acting like part of the family, followed them in as the doors started to close behind him. His stomach felt a little queasy with each further step down the hallway. The once good idea started to seem like a terrible mistake. Kelly had to go on and find his Pappy. The nauseating stench that permeated throughout the entire hallway brought back painful memories that Kelly had locked away deep within his subconscious. The same smell once filled the Reese's perfect home. His mother had spent her final days of battling breast cancer at home, confined to her bed, attached to machines that beeped and tubes that dripped medicine into her veins. "Stop it!" the little girl cried. "Leave your sister alone," the woman in the sundress barked. "So help me St. Christopher, if you don't wise up damn quick, I'm going to crack you one." She smiled at Kelly and grabbed her son by the arm, dragging him down the hall. With one final yank, the boy disappeared around the corner. The fluorescent lighting overhead mixed with the dulling white paint of the walls blinded Kelly. He accidentally walked straight into an empty gurney bed parked against the wall near room 23. The lights in the room were off except for the soft illumination of a bedside lamp, and the television was blasting The Price is Right. Kelly found himself remembering the weekend visits he would take with his parents to see Pappy and Grandma Elaine at their house in Haven Ridge. Pappy would sit and play the pricing games with him and his mother, while Grandma cooked the dinner and his father did household chores for his parents. Kelly wandered in looking for his Pappy.